We'd be like, bro, what the fuck? You killed our president. Now we got to take you out. Regardless if I like the president or not, you're not going to touch my president. Like, we can touch our president, but no other country can, or we're going to be pretty fucking upset. I mean, we can overthrow our government, but if another country does, we're going to be pretty fucking upset. Same thing with the Iranian people.
Must be seeing with their own eyes in the streets evidence that the IRGC remains in tight control.
And
otherwise they'd be doing it.
And it does. And that's the problem. I mean, how do you get rid of the IRGC? That is actually
250,000 heavily armed, very well trained, ruthless Revolutionary Guards
who benefit from the present regime.
Of course.
And that's the problem. These people benefit from keeping the Ayatollahs in charge. And actually, that is the problem.
So what would you do if you're Trump now?
Well, I know
if he has quietly thought to himself, I've got to get out of this. And I think he should, even if it means he has to, eat crow and just take a hit on it. I think the longer term damage of not doing that now is incalculable. So if you're Trump, what do you do?
Well, he's going to...
I don't think his ego going to let him just turn around.
He's actually going to try and get out of the whole situation.
Yeah.
And that's what he's going to do. I mean, you could see it beginning to occur. I mean, the fact of the matter is they want to have the Strait of Hormuz open. That's key now. But it was open before the war. It was open. Yeah. And we want to go back. The whole situation is quite absurd. It has gone wrong for the United States big time. And I think Trump now wants to get out of the situation. If he can call it victory, he will. He will call it victory regardless of whether it is or not. But actually, the situation will not be resolved, and the situation will remain as it is now. The Iranian government will remain in power, and the poor people of Iran, the long-suffering poor people of Iran, will continue to be absolutely dominated by the IRGC. Now, that's what's likely to happen.
Yeah.
And I cannot see the idea of invading a country like Iran is militarily mad.
But I think also, never mind militarily, politically.
Hell yeah. I mean, like, bro, they're literally protected. The country's built like a fortress. They're literally protected by two big ass mountains on each side. You can't attack them from the south because they'll get you from the ports. You can't attack them on the east and the west because they got two big ass mountain ranges going upside the country on both sides. So yeah, it's literally a fortress. And then they got the Caspian Sea on the north. It would literally be a dog fight, the wildest dog fight ever to literally invade Iran. To get inside of Iran past those mountains, oh man, bro. Saddam couldn't even do it. And with our help, with the help of us in the Gulf states, they couldn't even get past those mountain ranges.
Disastrous for Trump.
Yeah.
If you suddenly had a load of Marines getting killed, right, and they didn't get their hands on the enriched uranium, it's over for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I said at the start of this, Scott, I thought this was the biggest risk I've ever seen Donald Trump take. Yeah, I always thought, interestingly, his foreign policy, certainly compared to people like George Bush and others, was actually reasonably measured. I mean, Trump was a guy that believed in taking out Soleimani and then getting out of there, right? Yeah. Maduro was a classic Trump foreign policy move. People may not agree with it, but actually as a military operation, in and out, snatch the leader, put a more emollient number two in place, and maybe you can,
Yeah, because it worked out for us. I mean, we took out Maduro. Dulce Rodriguez, who was the VP, is now the current leader, and she's playing ball. She's doing everything we want her to do and more. But the people of Venezuela are still living under the same regime. But at least that regime does what we say. So, I mean, that's always nice. Not so nice for the people of Venezuela, but it's great for us.
It's fine. There's no sort of casualty list. This one, from the moment he did it, I was like, wow. You're staking everything here. And I still believe that. And I think I sense, knowing him very well, that he's now wrestling with a massive dilemma. How do I get out of this without losing face and without America losing face?
Right. Well, yes. First of all, as Mr. Bolton said, they've always known what the potential consequences of this could be.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Because any attempt by any of them to try and say, well, we didn't realize they might do, Bolton was saying they had the open conversations about it.
I found an article that I wrote in August of 2005 for antiwar.com saying that this is what could happen.
Yeah.
Iran can close the whole gate, the Strait of Hormuz.
Out of interest, why have they never done it before?
Because we hadn't attacked them.
No, but why wouldn't they have done it as a strategic thing to cause economic
Well, that would
mayhem?
have provoked.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's going to provoke a war. And also, like I said, that just shows how measured Iran is. But the problem is people like to paint Iran as these crazy people who just, as soon as they have the capability to strike us, they will. Well, guys, according to that rocket that they shot 2,000 miles out, they've been had the capability to strike Europe, and they did it. I mean, according to the way things are playing out in this conflict/war, they've been had the ability to close the Strait of Hormuz, but they didn't. Shit, during the 12-day war, they had the ability to close the strait and attack all of our allies in the region, but they did it. So Iran has actually shown us that they tried to avoid war at every trip, or I'd say at every turn, but we just keep on trying to pull them in. And I mean, they finally let us. They finally let us pull them in.
To war that they were trying to avoid this whole time too.
Right.
And the Bush administration, everybody but W. Bush, including John Bolton, pushed him very hard to do this. And it was the military that talked him out of it. In January 2007, the chiefs told W. Bush, we don't want to do this. We'll triple the Iraq war, but we don't want to go to Iran. And the reason why is because they can hit back in ways that we can't control. We don't want to fight anyone unless we know we control.
Facts. That's true. They try to push Bush into Iran as well, but I mean, they said no. They said no. We're stopping here. We're not going to go into Iran. We barely. I mean, like Iraq was a mess, and y'all want to go into a more formidable country? Yeah. Bush was like, bro, kick rocks. I'm not doing it.
Every single stage of the conflict.
What do you think on the Gulf states? I've had lots of different views about this. I spent a lot of time in the Middle East in the last 2 years, in Saudi, in Qatar, in UAE. It's been a very vibrant, dynamic place to be. They've been pouring money into a new business model of opening up tourism, sport, sunshine, safety. And it's all designed to replace the dwindling oil supply.
Oh, guys, man, make sure to like the video, guys, by double tapping that screen, guys. Double tap the screen, like the video, and any question, comment, jokes, or disagreements, please super chat that in or send a GIF.
And now you see their worst nightmare unfurling as a region, because actually it's what Iran has done, from a tactical point of view, pretty skillfully, is they've targeted the vulnerable spot of the whole region, which is if you can stop people going there, you're wrecking their business model going forward. That applies huge pressure. Well,
they completely called America's conventional military.
Well, what do you think the Gulf states are really thinking about Trump and America in this? Are they, as some people argue, it's drawn them closer to America because of what Iran has done to them? Or do you think that they're blaming America for the whole mess unfurling in the first place?
Well, I don't know about the blame. I mean, I could see, part of the motive for them to want to get closer. But then again, our bluff has been called. The Iranians have just proven, due to Trump's unforced error here, that America's conventional dominance of the Gulf, it was always a bluff. They closed down all of our bases. They kicked us out of the region. And, our aircraft carriers, our Star Destroyers are now parked in orbit way off hundreds of miles away in the Arabian Sea. Can't even get anywhere near it. Have to fire their missiles from standoff ranges. So it seems to me like especially all those smaller states, they're probably going to have to take a stance closer to Qatar's, where they split the difference and try to get along with Iran. Now, as Justin Logan said, what good is a military base if you can't fight a war from it? So America's entire conventional posture in the region is over now, I think.
Jonathan, you're shaking your head.
Well, I think...
And guys, if you don't know, the reports already came out. Articles already been reporting on this, that yes, Iran has been able to make pretty much destroy military bases in the Middle East region or in the Gulf region. And they are now uninhabitable. And destroyed a whole bunch of radars as well.
You said about the Gulf states is important because I think...
I don't actually know the answer.
Sure.
I've not spoken to many
I don't think anyone knows the answer.
No.
I think the UAE and Saudi Arabia may be very much against capitulation, but you might find that Qatar and Oman are less averse to it. But that's one element of it. I would say that one thing we haven't discussed, because it seems unlikely, is that actually this so-called deal that Trump maybe is striking actually gets a lot of what he wanted. There was an interview that he did on PBS over the phone where he was asked, there is a rumor that the nuclear material will be transferred out of Iran, maybe to the US. He said not maybe to the US, definitely to the US. Now, if that's part of an agreement,
Yo, Craftsman, we lost US bases. Like that's not anything, bro. What? I mean, we lost servicemen. That's not anything important. Like, bro, you sure you're just not trying to clown a little bit too hard right there, dog? We lost radar, we lost military men, and we lost US bases and infrastructure. Like, yeah, we lost a lot. Oh, and $25 billion spent. So that's what we also losing money as well.
The Iranians will transfer it. That avoids your scenario of troops on the ground. But I will say this, that any deal made with the Iranian regime is a bad deal, because to make a deal with the barbarians of the Islamic Republic of Iran, to make any deal with them when their technique has always been to use negotiations to drag things on as long as possible, to wear people out, to use time to their favor rather than
and they've done that even
US.
without the knowledge. Now they have this tremendous leverage of what they can do with the Strait of Hormuz.
But that's what I mean with the Strait of Hormuz. This is what's so perplexing about what Trump is doing now, because there is no reason not to have carried on what he had just started.
I absolutely agree with
he
that.
can strangle their economy, just keep
well, that's the big question.
And it's worth the high cost to do so.
What is the evidence that they cannot bear the economic pain of having the blockade on the strait?
The exchange rate is now way worse than it was when the uprising started, because it was
okay.
bad.
But America supported Saddam Hussein in a brutal war against him for 8 years, and they were able to withstand
I will
that.
say there is a fair amount of evidence, which is that they can't really afford to do anything. They are now having to subsidize things in the lives of their nation, who they don't really care about their citizens that much. There is a lot of evidence that if you carry on strangling them, their hopeful pivot towards China has not really worked out the way they'd hoped economically either. There is an enormous amount of pressure on the Islamic Republic regime. Certainly they can withstand a lot of that pressure, because they are ruthless, horrible people who will let their own population suffer.
All right, guys, hold on now. All right, guys, you know, the satellites is a bit different from those radars that's supposed to pick up missiles coming in, right? And, you know, and also weather as well. So no, we're not talking about satellites, guys. We're talking about radar that's supposed to pick up missiles and other things, like, you know, on the ground, closer to the ground. We're not talking about our satellites. Satellite images isn't really going to help when it comes to intercepting missiles.
But eventually what Trump was doing was a non-violent method of continuing this war. He had moved out of the kinetic stage of airstrikes and all that we saw there into this stage of playing them at their own game with the Strait of Hormuz and trying to open it up to release the pressure on the rest of the world, not doing too well on that yet, but starting, and also managing to choke them off, to suffocate them, to gradually economically.
But the problem here, Jonathan,
and that's what you should carry on doing.
Well, hang on a second. You're a very pro-Israeli commentator. You'd accept that.
I think I'm a fair commentator.
Okay. I mean, in all your columns you've written for The Spectator, how many have been critical of Israel?
I often have criticisms of Israel.
Oh, it's a headline on the column.
I don't write the headlines.
Have you ever had a critical headline on one of your columns about Israel?
From the subs. I'd have to go back and check.
I can tell you, I checked.
Okay.
You haven't.
Okay.
So you've never written a column that's
I think I did once, actually. I think I wrote one about...
Got him. He's like, dang, bro. Hold on. So you write columns, you write articles and all that cool stuff, and you've never wrote one column that went against Israel, that condemned Israel in any way? Man, that's tough.
Something is pre-October 7th about...
hey, that is some A1 shilling right there. You got to give it up to the man. I mean, that's a different level of shilling.
Okay, I need
forest issue in the West Bank or something.
I need checks since October the 7th. But
Okay,
you would
fair
accept that you're a partisan commentator.
I don't think I'm partisan, no.
But you've never written a column that's been critical of Israel.
Plenty of my columns have criticisms of Israeli policy in them.
But not in the last 3 years.
No, within the last 3 years. Go and read them.
What was
did you read them, or did ChatGPT read them, or did your researchers read them?
I went and checked every one.
You read them all?
I checked every headline of every column.
None of them. I didn't write the headlines.
My point being,
that your own editor.
I don't know why you're complaining about being perceived as a...
Oh, yeah, guy. You got any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, or some information you want to add? You can go ahead and super chat it in. Appreciate the support. And guys, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video.
Pro-Israeli comment.
No. Many of the things I say do defend positions of Israel, because I think Israel.
There's a reason I'm asking.
This war has been. No, I get there's a reason.
No. The reason I'm asking is
you didn't ask me if I have sympathy for Israel's actions during the last 2 years of this war. You asked me if I consider myself a partisan,
yes,
or somehow, I think your words in your Spectator column about me, slavishly pro-Israel.
Yes.
I'm not slavishly anything. I look at the facts and I look at what I see is going on in the region, and I try to analyze it from a perspective, which does very often come down in this scenario in favor of the the Israeli actions. But it doesn't mean I'm
invariably.
slavishly no, I resent that. And I think, afterwards, let's talk about it. I'll find you the criticisms I've put in some.
You know what? The great thing is in the digital era, people can tap in your name to the Spectator website. They can check every column and they can see if any of them have a headlines critical of Israel.
I don't like the headlines, Piers.
Maybe that's the theme of the column.
Good.
Well, sometimes I don't like the headlines they give me.
But here's why I'm asking the question.
Go for it.
I mean, that is a crazy excuse, though. It's like, so wait, hold on. So you write the article, but you don't come up with the title? I don't know if I believe that, but all right, maybe. I mean, that's probably I could see that. I could see it, but I find it a bit hard to believe. But I could see, I could see a media company doing that.
Point disputing this much longer, but I'm not trying to play gotcha. The reason I'm asking is that there is a belief that Israel's operating on a different side to this whole thing, that they don't care if there's total chaos in Iran. They've got a much wider, bigger picture that they're going after here, and that actually if Trump does look like he's reining back too much here, and that the Iranian regime may stay intact and may have the enriched uranium and so on, then Netanyahu just won't accept it, and that Israel could actually unilaterally go and attack again. Do you think that's likely?
Well, I do think you're absolutely right, and that Israel and America don't have entirely the same aims in this war, and they never did, but they had a huge amount of overlap, and I think that's why it came together that this happened as a joint action. So from Israel's perspective, which, I do write a lot about Israel, and I am very sympathetic to many of the actions Israel takes and has taken, especially during this war period. From Israel's perspective, it's interesting to consider what this will mean if Trump capitulates now. Will it be good for them or will it be bad for them? In some respects, if you think about October the 7th.
Well, it's going to be cooked for them because then they won't be able to attack Lebanon anymore because Iran's going to do something about that. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, that's the whole reason why they try to annex Lebanon while with the war with Iran, because Iran's too distracted with us to actually help out the Houthis and, and put Israel at bay. So, yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Israel kind of used us to annex southern Lebanon. And I mean, that's literally what they're doing right now. They're bombing the Lebanese people and Christian villages, not unsurprisingly. And, they're displacing so far they displaced about over a million people. Over a million people have been displaced so far. While we've been over here handling Iran, these guys have been trying to take over southern Lebanon under the fog of war.
And pre-October the 7th and the end of the war, if we drew a line here, they are net up on that. If they were below zero on some kind of numerical scale on October the 7th, when that horror happened, on the 28th of October, when that war started in Gaza, they increased massively in that scale. Then with Lebanon and Hezbollah, with the 12-day war in Iran, they will have increased more. If he capitulates now, it will come down slightly. So they might have gone up to a 70 and now they'll come down to a 60 or 50. They're still up 50 from zero when they were below zero. But I do think that what it has done in some respects, whilst not conclusively, it has demolished a lot of the capability of the Shia axis that Iran leads in the region. The problem is it hasn't got rid of it, but it has stopped Syria being a corridor for Iran to funnel things towards Hezbollah. They are currently trying to deal with Hezbollah, but that's on pause because of this ceasefire that the Americans...
Okay, let me bring in Colonel...
It swings and roundabouts, that's what I'd say.
Colonel Bob, I mean, I saw one report which said that in Gaza, for example, because of the destruction of 70-80% of Gaza, because of the killing of 70,000-80,000 people there, some of whom obviously were Hamas. We don't know the exact split of terrorists to civilians. But because of that, I read one report from American intelligence that for every Hamas terrorist who'd been killed, 5 more were now lining up with the same...
Out to my man Noah Joyner, he says, get the deal signed. If they attack, send in Delta to get Bibi and hold him for war crimes. I mean, yeah, that's probably the best thing we could do. Get a deal. Tell Bibi to cut the shit. Look, you're not going to war with Iran no more. You're not going to go ahead and annex southern Lebanon. Oh, yeah, and that fantasy of getting into war with Turkey, yeah, that's going too. You're going to sit there. You're just going to be a good little Jewish state. Oh, and you're also going to give the Palestinians a 1 or 2 state solution. I don't know how you're going to do it. I really don't care. But something's going to get done. It's either they're going to be Israelis or they're going to have their own state. But we're not going to keep perpetuating this long-ass conflict that just keeps sprouting more terrorism. Why? Because the way they treat the Palestinians is absolutely reckless. And one of the biggest one of the biggest problems in the Middle East is the Palestinian question of a one-state or two-state solution, or you just kill them all and just forget about them. And Lord knows nobody want to go with option 3. So what? It's either a one or two-state solution. I would force Israel into that. I'd be like, look, I don't really care. Just pick one.
Ideology, because they were so enraged by what Israel had done.
That's normal, Piers.
Right.
It's normal. If you.
But my point being, though, how big a problem is Israel potentially creating for itself by what many perceive to be, and I would be one of them now, that the disproportionate response to what happened on October the 7th, just in terms of what they did.
Oh, my bad. And shout out to my man Noah Joyner. I had to give you a shout out. Appreciate the support, bro.
To Gaza. That actually, if you look at, I mean, for example, I never thought I'd see a time when the majority of Americans had an anti-Israeli perspective in the polling. I didn't think that day would come. So clearly there's been a movement in public sentiment globally about what the Israeli government's been doing. And look, to be crystal clear, this is not aimed at Israeli people, my criticism, or Jewish people, certainly. It is aimed specifically at this Israeli government that I think is very hardline right, driven by, in cases of Smodrich and Ben-Gvir in particular, absolute main.
Yo, Ben-Gvir is wild. I think that's their no. I know the finance manager is Smoltrich, but Ben-Gvir, I forgot his position, but he has a high position in Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet. And this guy literally celebrated a law that you can hang Palestinians for, crimes of terrorism. But here's the thing, though, they're only doing it for Palestinians. So if you get caught as a Palestinian and they say, oh, yeah, crimes of terrorism, innocent or guilty, they're going to hang you. Actually, they're going hang crazy with the Palestinians. And this is why Ben-Gvir was like, celebrating, because apparently he likes seeing Palestinians suffer while getting hung. And here's the thing, they don't do it to Israelis. So yes, Israelis get caught up for act of terrorism too, but they're not going to hang them. But they pass a law, saying that if you're Palestinian and you get caught for acts of terrorism, they're going to hang you. And, act of terrorism and hanging, sure, go ahead and do what y'all want. But when you make it about race, that's when it becomes a problem. And then on his birthday, his wife brought him out a cake with a noose on it. Do you want to guess what that's for?
Maniacs. I mean, when Ben-Gvir's wife on his 50th birthday last week gives him a birthday cake of a golden noose, you're dealing with psychopathic mentality. I'm sorry. And Jonathan, you can respond to that in a moment. But I just feel like this has been part of the problem.
I'm not a spokesman for Itamar Ben-Gvir. I have to point out.
No, sure.
Israel has two objectives. One, get rid of the nuclear threat. Two, bring down the regime. Make the place safe. Make the Middle East safe. That's understandable. The United States had one objective to start with, definitely, take out the nuclear facilities, and a more fuzzy one. When they did that, or as they attacked, perhaps the regime would fall.
Yeah.
We're now going to get to the situation where Trump may well maintain he's neutralized the nuclear situation and he can't change the regime, and he's actually going to draw stumps and say, actually, we've won this war, when he hasn't, because all he will have done is delayed.
Just for my American viewers, draw stumps is a cricket phrase, which means you basically end the game.
Exactly. Yes.
May I jump in?
Quickly,
just to say, I think that Israel actually it has undeniably come out of this war, though it may not have gone how they wanted or how the US wanted or to plan. There is no denying that its reputation has altered, but it's altered in both directions. So some of the Gulf states and many of the states in the Middle East now see Israel's deterrence as massively renewed after the day in which its deterrence was seen as massively compromised, October the 7th. And now, if it's got this renewed deterrence, if it has managed to do so much in that 2 years from the low point of October the 7th, if it also managed to do it in such tight collaboration and operational partnership with the US, albeit under this particular president, it has shown itself to be an extremely strong ally. It even gave an Iron Dome battery.
I don't know why, but I guess I kind of got to be a dick and answer this. So I was like, I don't know why we're making excuse for Iran. Who else in the world supports terrorism around the region? Us? Yeah, United States. Like, we supported the Taliban. I mean, Al Qaeda. We were just talking about supporting the communist Kurds. I mean, bro. Oh, and UAE, they support a terrorist group, the one that's terrorizing Sudan. So, yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, they're not the only people supporting terrorists in the region. We do it too, and so does the UAE, and so does Saudi Arabia as well.
To one of its Arab neighbors to use during the Iranian attacks on them. And those countries have seen as well that Iran will not hold back from attacking them and their people.
I mean, shoot, bro, we put the head of Al-Qaeda as the president of Syria. I mean, bro, if that's not supporting terrorism, I don't know what is.
And that is something that has taught them a lesson about who their real allies are in the region. So I think Israel's reputation may be bad among some campuses in the West and even some Western and European parliaments. But if you look at the region that it exists in, many of the people in the region have understood that country as renewed in strength, renewed in alliance, a valuable partner to have. And I think that Europe, as it's getting weaker and weaker, you know, Merz said that this has humiliated Trump. Merz would like Trump to capitulate, though he won't say so, because it will prove that Europe was right not to get involved, because if America can't do this, what could a depleted Europe have done? But the point is, Europe is depleted, sadly, and that means that Israel is far more concerned with.
But that goes into my earlier point, though. It's like, so if we can't, bro, if we can't do it, they're looking at us like, well, of course we can. If America can't do it, no one can. When it comes to military might, yeah, I mean, if the strongest navy in the world can't get the Strait of Hormuz open, then what the hell they look like pulling up?
With how its neighbors see it, far more concerned with how the US and the US administration see it than how Merz and Europe sees it. And this is a problem for Israel, but also it is in a stronger position than it was on October the 7th, without any doubt.
Scott, could it be that Israel is...
I mean, Craftman, how about this? You stop being a puss, go sign up for the military and go out there and get it yourself.
Or unpopular in the way that Jonathan articulated in those areas.
When you're not in the action
actually
now.
Is stronger as a result of all its actions, even if people don't agree with what they did.
Yeah, there's a document.
And bro, Iran can't have uranium ore when they literally mine it in their country, bro. Do you hear how you sound? It's like, come on, bro. You're not being realistic. And like I said, if you ain't, I mean, do you want to go fight? Oh, stop being a puss then.
From back in the 80s where they say, you know, all our support for Iran in the Iran-Iraq war, it could backfire and Iran could conquer Baghdad, which they didn't want that. They just wanted the war to continue. Then they said, you know what, if that happens, that's okay, though, because that'll just help drive all the Sunni kings closer to us because of their fear of the Shiites. So the fact that, and I'm sure you saw the Ynet story the other day about how the military and intelligence officials in Israel consider this war to be an absolute and complete unmitigated disaster. They didn't get the regime change. They did not destroy the nuclear material. They did not end Iran's alliance with Hezbollah, the Iraqi PMUs, or the Ansar Allah in Yemen, or any other thing. They've accomplished absolutely none of their goals.
Hey, bro, I got family in the military too. I don't care. I don't care. What you said was still a pretty hypocritical thing to say, because you're not out there fighting. You're not out there willing to stop Iran from getting uranium ore, but you're okay with letting young men go out there and risk their lives for it. Like, come on, bro. That is the biggest pussy move right there. I mean, your family members who served got the honor, not you. You out here saying pussy shit over the internet.
Instead, they proved that America's conventional footprint in the military East is in the Middle East is completely obsolete. So
I mean, that's kind of weird. Like, my family, bro, what did you do? What did you do? Exactly. That's why you're leaning on your family, because you know you ain't did nothing yourself.
And then yes, I'm sure all the people in the region are upset, although the kings and sultans and emirs and potentates and monarchs and el presidentes of the GCC may have been driven closer to Israel in a way. But I want to talk about American public opinion that you cited there. We are propagandized so heavily in the United States of America that the only reason anyone would ever criticize Israel is just because they hate Jews and want to kill them all or something. And for people to have gone from believing that to where they are now is due solely to two things. Israel's slaughter in the Gaza Strip unremitting cruelty, which we all can see them deliberately killing children, etc., and then dragging us into another no-win war in the Middle East, just like with W. Bush. Netanyahu and his men promised it'll be easy. We'll just tell them that they're making nuclear weapons. We'll go in there, we'll get a regime change, and everything will be fine. And, you know, last time in Iraq.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie though. The IDF, I mean, what they're doing in Lebanon, atrocious. What they did in Gaza, horrific. And I mean, like, they're just catching a lot of heat. It's like, I don't know what's up with these guys, but they just get themselves in trouble literally, like, almost like for no reason. Like, what was it? First, they smashed the Jesus statue, and then now they're putting a cigarette in the Mother Mary's mouth. I mean, it's like, I don't know what's up with them. Like, guys, check this out. Check out this bullshit right here. It's like they just can't help themselves. Like, bro. Desecrating it. And you see how they got blood on the chest and all that. Like, they're wilding. They're wilding. So, yeah, that's the problem. Like, the IDF, they create their own problems. It's not us just being hypercritical of Jews or Israel or anything. No, they're doing it to themselves. They bring the attention to themselves.
Too, they put Iran's best friends in power, from Dawa and the Supreme Islamic Council. They still rule Iraq to this day. They tried to support the bin Ladenites against Assad in Syria, which ended up driving Assad closer to Iran for 15 years, although they did finally get their victory when Al-Qaeda seized Damascus at the end of 2024. And so Israel is definitely stronger there for having helped Al-Qaeda, and Netanyahu bragged about it, by the way, that he helped Al-Qaeda, so did Joe Biden, helped Al-Qaeda seize Damascus. So that weakens Iran's ability to arm Hezbollah. But then again, they thought that Hezbollah had been severely weakened by the killing of their leader, by the pager attack and the airstrikes. And then when the current war broke out and Hezbollah jumped in, all the Israeli intelligence officials said, oh my God, they're much more powerful than we thought. They had survived in a much stronger capacity than we thought before. So now we're right where John Bolton left off, which none of this is going to work, Pierce, unless we drop an H-bomb on Tehran or we send in the entire, conscript 10 million men and invade Persia and take over the place.
You actually just touched on what I was going to ask Jonathan. One of the interesting aspects of all this is that I've asked repeatedly Israeli guests, pro-Israeli guests, why is it that as we talk about Iran not being allowed to have a nuclear weapon, why is it that Israel is consistently allowed and given a pass to never say whether it has a nuclear weapon or not?
Because it's the Holy Land, man. Oy vey. But actually, it's because they got to claim strategic ambiguity, because honestly, if the world does know, well, everybody knows. It's like the secret that everybody knows. But the thing is, if they're upfront about it, then we have to stop giving them aid, because they'd be considered a rogue state with nukes, which they are. But hey, now here's the problem though with Israel's nukes though, is that, well, one, they stole it from us. They stole the material from us. Two, JFK tried to get a handle on it, asked them, and actually pretty much got intel that they were building nukes, try to get them to stop. Threatened the prime minister. The prime minister quit. JFK ends up getting assassinated. Lyndon B. Johnson comes in and give them everything they ever wanted. So yeah, Israel's nuclear history is pretty complicated, but no, they got nukes for sure.
I interviewed an American commentator on a show yesterday, and he said that Israel obviously has 170 nuclear weapons. Everybody knows that. I see, but they've never admitted it.
I know the answer to that question.
I saw the.
I've heard 90, but 170 is crazy. But I could believe it. I could believe they might have stocked up.
It's illegal for America to give aid to Israel if they're a nuclear weapon state that has not signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So they lie and they give the strategic ambiguity and pretend they don't know that Israel is a nuclear weapon state. That way, conspiracy, nothing. It's the Glenn Symington law.
And here's a problem with Israel having a nuke. Let's go over three things that concern me, right? So in 1973, the Yom Kippur War. Now it was let's see here. It was Seymour Herschel. He argued that Israeli leaders considered or prepared their nuclear assets in 1973 if the U.S. did not send immediate conventional aid. This has been interpreted as a form of implicit nuclear blackmail. Then there is the Samson option. Now, this phrase refers to a strategy where Israel could use nuclear weapons as a last resort if it faces an existential threat. Some analysts have urged that Israel could theoretically use this threat to force the U.S. for support for its conventional operations. And then there's the 1960s nuclear deployment. President John F. Kennedy placed placed severe pressure on Israel regarding their nuclear program in 1963, signaling that the U.S. support could be seriously jeopardized if inspections of the Dimona reactor were not allowed. I know, right? 1963, guy ends up dead. And in 1973, 10 years later, they're talking about, oh, if you don't help us, we'll hit these guys with a nuke. You see the reason why we don't want, a rogue nuclear state? Because they could be like Israel and, commit nuclear blackmail.
Because it's illegal to give them aid if they're a nuclear weapon state that does not sign the NPT.
Is that right, Jonathan?
So my answer to the question would be that Israel's policy of nuclear ambiguity is what it's usually referred to. And you're quite right that most of the world assumes / knows about Israel's nuclear bombs. Has been, I think it was Shimon Peres who introduced the phrase, Israel will never introduce nuclear weapons into the region. It was this weird phrase that meant to say, well, we're not going to say we've got them. That would be to introduce them. The reason for it, you're right, because it's one of those sticky things that you might wonder, why should Israel have them and not Iran? But basically, the answer is kind of obvious. It's what it sounds like, because Israel got the nuclear weapons to protect itself from basically a region which in every direction wanted to annihilate it since.
Bro, they stole it. They stole the nuke from us in a facility, New Mex in Pennsylvania. They stole it. And I'm be real with you, we know they stole it. There was CIA, classified documents that proved Israel stole, I think it was uranium or plutonium, one of them, to make their nuke. And I believe it was France and South Africa that helped them get to their nuke. So really, there's 3 countries that we need to hop on their ass, but it is what it is. Because all 3 of those countries now have nukes today. I mean, isn't that a coincidence?
It was born or reborn in 1948 and has never used those weapons to threaten the annihilation of another country, as Iran frequently does. For example, the Islamic Republic of Iran does to Israel. They have a countdown.
But why should Iran,
maybe even threaten Western countries?
Why should Iran? Why should Iran be? Why should Iran have to be? But just to be clear, why should Iran have to be completely transparent about its own nuclear aspirations?
Because it is a regime which wishes to kill us.
Well, okay, that's your opinion.
It's their opinion. They say it.
But there are other.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. No. When they say death to America, they don't mean death to all of America, all the people. They're saying death to our government. And the Iranian people then sat down with our meeting and explained this extensively. That we're not talking about death to the American people. We like the American people. The problem is, though, that your government has been causing terror in our region forever now. And that is true. I mean, in 1950s, we overthrew a democratically elected official because he wanted to make the Iranian oil work for his people. We didn't like that. So we overthrew him. And then we put in the Shah, who was basically an authoritarian dictator with the secret police. And the Iranian people overthrew him. And we brought in, France brought in the Khomeini, the old Ayatollah, the OG Ayatollah, the real savage, that we green stamp. So isn't it kind of crazy how all of the problems of Iran that we're dealing with today is of our own making? And maybe we just leave them the F alone. We stop creating problems. Shoot, if we just did that in the Middle East altogether, we stop creating problems.
To America,
there are other countries.
To Israel, the great Satan, the little Satan.
But there are other countries. But if you go to Russia or China or North,
well, I mean, shoot, let's explain that. The reason why Israel's called the little Satan is because they're the ones causing terror in the region, bombing. They bombed 7 countries in 1 year. They admit to being in a 7-front war, and they also said once they're done with Iran, they're moving on to Turkey. So this is a country dedicated to destabilizing the region. And Big Satan, which would be us, funds it, supports it all the way through with devotion. And a lot of our head officials in our country supports Israel vociferously with a passion, with a burning passion that's a bit scary because it feels like they love Israel more than their home country. But, I mean, that's them. So, yeah.
North Korea, vast swathes of the world don't agree with you, right? So the point being,
What do you mean they don't agree that those are facts? That Iran says death to Israel and death to America?
No, I didn't
Iran
say that.
Has launched.
I mean, they are supportive of the regime that you detest, right? So my point being that there are globally.
Okay, but they're
hang on, Jonathan.
right.
Hang on. This is your opinion.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, that's what I'm.
That's fine. I'm saying they're
uncensored.
Of course. Oh, no, of course. Well, my point being, a lot of the world has a different opinion about
Sure
Iran.
they do,
right?
But I'm
so my question. The point of my question. No,
yeah.
but the point of my question: why should we be compelling Iran to be transparent about what it has?
Because if they have a nuclear weapon,
but why is Israel not compelled to be as transparent?
Because Iran signed the NPT and Israel didn't. That's why. Iran is actually obligated.
Which is crazy, by the way, because if you really think about it, it's like, hold on. So why do you have more trust for Israel, who didn't sign the non-proliferation treaty, who stole their nukes, who got it through duplicitous means? But we got to sit there and distrust Iran, who actually signed a nuclear proliferation treaty, who actually agreed to have inspectors, who actually have a religious fatwa not to make nukes. Like, these guys have actually shown their resistance towards going towards a nuke. They've shown cooperation in the global sphere. But not Israel. But for some reason, we're supposed to believe that Iran's the rogue nation here. I mean, all right.
Iran is, that's correct. Iran is obligated, and Israel
would it not be a
That's the first
would it not be a powerful thing for Israel to say, in full transparency,
I don't know.
We have 170 nukes?
Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't.
How do you claim to be a transparent democracy?
Well, I'm saying, listen,
you're not remotely transparent.
I personally have not seen the nuclear weapons of Israel, and I personally is not something that I have personal proof of. Okay,
but do you think they have them?
Well, yes, that seems to be the received opinion. However, if it were some giant bluff, then it would be a magnificent one they've pulled off. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm telling you that the difference between the two states, why should Iran be transparent or stopped when they're not being transparent, is because they are a threat to the West.
Whoa. Somebody said Israel doesn't call for the destruction of the U.S. and other nations. I mean, actually, yeah, they have. What you mean? They call for the destruction of Palestinians. They call for the destruction of Iran. They call for the destruction of Iraq and Saddam. I mean, Israel is called for the destruction of a lot of places. Shoot, they're calling for the destruction of Turkey right now. Like, bruh, you been paying attention?
A threat to civilization. Israel is not.
Israel has threatened to nuke London and Paris and Berlin and Rome. It's called the Samson option. They said if the Western democracy...
And you say you're not a crackpot conspiracist.
There's a book by Seymour...
No, I mean, the Samson option is a real thing. If it ever came under an existential threat, it will sit there and use nuclear blackmail to pull us into a conflict, or they'll say it'll just strike everybody. And they got enough nukes to do so. So Israel's pretty much saying, like, yo, if you ever let us go out, we'll just take the entire world with us. And like I said, this is why you don't let rogue nations get nukes.
Israel wants the Samson option.
Israel wants to nuke the West.
I didn't say they want to. I said they have threatened that if the Western states abandon Israel to be overrun, that they'll nuke us too. And I'm not saying that's always been the permanent doctrine, but it's called the Samson option, and it was their doctrine, at least in the 1970s. There's a book about it by Seymour Hersh. You can pretend like you've never...
I mean, what else happened in the 1970s? That's where Israeli prime minister pretty much threatened the president at the 1970s. Was Nixon? No, I'm not sure, actually. Was it? Sorry, guys, kind of blanking out right now. But yes, pretty much Israeli officials approached our president and said, like, look, bro, if you don't give us aid, we're just going to nuke these countries. And America was like, whoa, we cannot have that now. Like, dog, you're going to destroy the whole region. We'd rather just give you aid that we don't want to give you. And we were resisting giving them aid. We wanted them to end the Yom Kippur War, but they didn't want to end it. So they just said, look, if you don't help us out the regular way, we'll just blow these guys to smithereens. And you'll just deal with that on the back end. Whatever blowback you get, I mean, we'll all deal with it together. And, oh, man, I can only imagine the blowback from nuking two countries.
Never heard of such a thing, but everyone else watching this can just Google up the Samson option and read it for themselves.
There is no serious.
That's the second time you tried to say conspiracy to me, as though that debunks anything that I've said.
From the state of Israel to the West of it having nuclear weapons, that's been proven by the fact that it has never used them. It's never threatened to use them. It's not threatening the annihilation of any other country. At most, what it does is uses its military strength, shielded by a nuclear umbrella, to fight back people who try to eradicate Israel, who try to eradicate the Jewish people.
Yeah, so isn't that kind of crazy how Iran's doing the same thing? Like literally the same thing, you know, from people who literally want to overthrow it, who want to see it destroyed and all that wild stuff, even though they frame it to you as we're saving the Iranian people. No, the F we're not. We don't care about the Iranian people. If we can get them, trust me, the way the government officials think, if they can get the regime out of power, they could give a damn about the Iranian people. I mean, you care, but the government officials don't. The army generals don't. They're just in it to win it.
Who have a genocidal intent, who have united Shia militias in the entire region
Y'all started
against
this
Israel,
war.
who have attacked Americans for over 40 years, who have attacked Europeans, who bombed during this war a British base, who tried to bomb Diego Garcia. This is a regime which cannot be allowed to have nuclear weapons, and there is no such similar
Israel
threat.
and America started this war.
You know what's so funny? You know, they got our nuclear reactors through us. Yeah, Atoms for Peace. It was in the 1953? Yeah, in the 1950s, what was it? We was running this little program, Atoms for Peace, and we were just giving out reactors. And that's how Iran's nuclear, program got started, was through us. So their nuclear program is a problem we created. The Ayatollah is a problem they created. I mean, even the revolution was a problem that we created. The Iraq war, yes.